the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
Morning, everyone. I'm pleased to call to order the meeting of the directors of the USA Niagara Development Corporation for Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. I'd like to note for the record that the meeting is being webcast, and I'd also like to note for the record that the public was given the opportunity to comment on the agenda items by submitting their written comments by noon on Monday. I'd like to further note for the record that no comments were received from the public concerning today's agenda items. The directors have received the relevant written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I'd like to ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to the items on the agenda. If so, I'd ask that you please make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time. We will then be sure that you recuse yourself from any discussion or vote regarding such item. Hearing none, or the foregoing conflict having been noted for the record, our first order of business is the approval of the minutes of the November 6, 2024 directors meeting.
A little approval?
Are there any questions, comments, additions, or deletions? We do not have any comments from the public. If I may have a motion for approval. And second.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. So the motion carries. I'll now move over to Anthony Velardo to present the next item on today's agenda, approval of the corporation's operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 2025-26. Anthony?
Thank you, Chairman Delmonte. Directors, state finance law requires that prior to the commencement of each fiscal year on April 1st, the directors of the USA Niagara Development Corporation adopt an annual budget and capital budget, if applicable. Attached for your review and approval are the budgets for the USA Niagara fiscal year 2025-26. 2025-26 operating budget proposes a total of $757,001 in personnel services, which are salary and benefits for the 5 employees, and a total of $196,475 in non-personnel services, primarily office occupancy, insurance, and other administrative expenses. The total of all budget personnel and non-personnel expenses for the fiscal year of 2025-26 is $953,476. Consistent with previous year's operating budgets, the fiscal year 2025-26 operating budget will be advanced by Empire State Development, USA Niagara's parent, the expectation of reimbursement at a later date. Separate from the corporation's operating budget is the corporation's capital budget. Capital projects are approved individually by the corporation's board of directors under separate actions. The corporation's fiscal year 2025-26 capital budget is $85,849,397. This includes, but is not limited to, design and other soft costs, legal costs, property management and maintenance costs, insurance, demolition, and site clearance costs, along with construction and other miscellaneous costs. It is anticipated that the proposed capital budget will fund design and support construction for the Rainbow Mall Civic Improvement Project, the Gorge Gateway Park and Hydraulic Plaza, capital grants related to the Hotel Niagara and the First Street mixed-use building project, and maintenance and site preparation expenses associated with property secured through USA Niagara's Strategic Land Acquisition Program. Funding for the corporation's capital budget will be consistent with existing board actions and primarily will consist of both existing and anticipated funds from the New York State budget appropriations. No USA Niagara corporate funds are included in the capital budget. Our recommendation is, based upon the foregoing, that the directors are requested to ratify and approve the corporation's proposed fiscal year 2025 and 26 operating budget in the amount of $953,476, and the capital budget in the amount of $85,849,397, subject to individual project approvals, and to authorize the corporation to undertake tasks and incur expenditures consistent with advancing the scope of work completed within the proposed budgets. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Are there any questions or comments from the directors regarding this particular item? Actually, Anthony, I can't remember if I asked you yesterday. Is this an increase, stable, decrease,
Our budget,
the overall?
there's a slight increase. Last year, if you remember, we did not have a full staff. We are now fully staffed. So this includes one additional salary. And there was also an increase in the insurance costs for the agency. Those are the two drivers of the increase, which
And property management, maintenance costs, but the down is construction costs
on the
on the capital.
cabinet.
Yeah.
As we start to dispose of properties, our property, the maintenance costs will be less and less.
Right.
Overall, we're voting on both the operating budget and
Yes.
the capital budget as one,
It's one item.
one item. But overall, the full budget together is down, so.
Oh, a little bit.
I like that. Down's good.
Scott, anybody else? Anybody from the public? We do not have any comments from the public regarding this item, so if I may have a motion for approval.
I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any questions, comments, additions, or deletions? If not, I'll entertain, oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'm sorry. So moved. I'm sorry. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Anthony, we'll go on to the next item on today's agenda. Approval of the Niagara Falls Convention and Conference Facility in Old Fall Street.
Hi, I'm Chair Demonte. The motion carries?
Yes, it did.
We all voted yes.
Could you
Aye.
say the motion carries?
The motion carried. Did I not say that? Sorry if I didn't.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Anyway, the Niagara Falls Convention and Conference Facility in Old Fall Street, 2025, operating and capital budgets. Anthony?
Thank you, Chairman. USA Niagara Development Corporation is the owner and developer of the Niagara Falls Convention Center. USA Niagara Board of Directors on October 12, 2021 authorized USA Niagara to enter into a 5-year agreement with the Niagara Tourism and Convention Corporation, doing business as Destination Niagara, to provide management services for the Niagara Falls Convention Center and the City of Niagara Falls owned Old Fall Street for a 5-year term starting on January 1st, 2022. The agreement has 2 one-year extension options. The proposed calendar year 2025 operating budget for the convention center is $400,495. The operating budget for Old Fall Street is $816,041. The total operating budgets for the convention center on Old Fall Street are $1,216,536. The proposed calendar year 2025 capital budget is $283,400. Destination Niagara will make the proposed capital budget purchases on behalf of USA Niagara through state contracts where cost effective, and through competitive bids and comparable pricing where state contracts are not available. The capital budget for the convention center includes replacement of the event center carpet, installation of a staff parking lot gate system, new china and glassware for the banquet hall, security improvements, emergency repairs. Currently, there are no capital items in the budget this year for Old Fall Street. The combined operating capital budgets is $1,499,936. The Niagara Falls Convention Center operating capital budgets are $683,895, while the Old Falls Street operating capital budgets total $816,041. To address a gap in the corporation's fiscal year, our year, if you recall, runs April 1st to March 31st in the fiscal year of the Convention Center in Old Falls Street, which run January 1st to December 31st. The directors approved on March 26, 2024, in advance of $250,000 to fund the first quarter operations in 2025. USA Niagara is proposing that the directors approve at this time the Niagara Falls Convention Center Old Falls Street funding for the first quarter of 2026, the calendar quarter, in the amount not to exceed $250,000. The Niagara Falls Convention Center Old Falls Street budgets for 2026 will remain subject to approval by the directors before the start of the corporation's fiscal year. Therefore, we are requesting that the directors approve the calendar year 2025 Niagara Falls Convention Center and Old Falls Street operating capital budgets in an amount not to exceed $1,499,936, and to approve the Niagara Falls Convention Center and Old Falls Street funding for the first quarter of 2026 in an amount not to exceed $250,000, and to disperse funds in accordance with the calendar year 2025 operating budgets for both entities. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Are there any questions or comments from the directors regarding this particular item? We do not have any comments from the public on this particular item either, so may I entertain a motion for approval?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries. I am now pleased to call on Andrea Zopp, Chief Operating Officer for the Niagara Falls Conference Center, and Jason Burja, General Manager of the Falls Convention Center, to present the Destination Niagara USA Annual Report and Budget for informational purposes only. Board members, there will be no vote. So let me turn it over to you. Andrea, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to run through a couple of highlights from 2024 and just give you a little bit of a hint of how we're looking for 25. The 2024 success of the building was significant. We had 97 events, 62,939 guests. The total building revenue was $3,094,768, with an estimated economic impact of $22.9 million for the region. We completed the year with a $252,322 positive variance for the building. We had the strongest June and August on record for the lifespan of the building, and July had only 7 dark days in the building, which is traditionally the slowest month of the year. So it was overall a very positive year. We also executed phase 2 of a marketing campaign called Bucket List Hero. I did bring a few because I thought you'd like to see it because it's a really cute campaign. This was paid for not through convention center dollars, but through an EDA grant that Destination Niagara USA received, that's administered by I Love New York, for us to market and promote meetings in the destination. So again, no dollars came out of the Niagara Falls Convention Center budget for that, but it does significantly benefit the building. Obviously, since it's the largest meeting space that we have in the city. And so that was a $150,000 campaign. It was over 2 years, so it's done incredibly well. We were able to significantly decrease the spend for the convention center sales travel because it was a duplication of efforts from what our sales team at Destination Niagara does. So there weren't a lot of budget dollars in the convention center budget for the convention center salespeople. Old Falls Street again had a really great year. We're always blessed with good weather. That always helps with the attendance for these events, because obviously the more people that come, the more they drink and buy food and enjoy themselves, and that's how we put the revenue back into paying for the events. So 24 was a good weather year, so let's hope that happens again for 2025 so that we continue to do that. Just want to also mention that in an effort to boost our revenue, we have also partnered with a third-party company to help us find sponsorships for various events through for the convention center and for Old Falls Street. So we're currently working on that into this year as well. Just a few of the sponsorships that we were able to garner towards the end of last year when this relationship started. We were able to get $15,000 from Pepsi Company for the Fishing Expo. Wyndham Vacations was $5,500. That also went towards the Fishing Expo. And then Greenlight Networks was $2,400 for Jingle Falls, which was the Christmas event. And Lawley Insurance was also $5,000 for Jingle Falls. Niagara Falls State Park also gave $5,000 for the Old Fall Street summer programs last year. So we're anticipating to do even better than that this year with sponsorship dollars. We're hoping to get bigger sponsors to come in for some of the bigger events on Old Fall Street as well to help offset the revenue for the street. That's all I have if you have any questions.
What's the 2025 looking like this summer for Old Fall Street, business in general?
Yeah, so for Old Fall Street, we're changing the summer Saturday programming a little bit. We're reducing the special event, what was called the special events for Saturdays to reduce some costs and creating a more boardwalk type atmosphere on the street on Saturdays. Fridays, there will be the summer concert series. That's 10 Fridays through the summer. We're hoping to get a sponsor for that. I'm waiting for the answer on that right now. Because if we can get that sponsor, that'll offset the cost entirely for what we pay. So we're hoping that'll come through. So fingers crossed on that. Yeah, go ahead.
So for the convention center, traditionally, prior to January 1st of this year, we roughly have on the books about $900,000 prior to the beginning of the year. This year, we had prior to January 1st, over $2 million on the books. In addition, from May 1st to November 31st, we only have 20 dark days. That may have changed already, depending on some of the leads that we've gotten. So really, this year we have roughly 72 repeat groups and 29 new groups. We're really at a point where now we're at compression. We've turned away more business than ever on the books. We're still taking business and what we're layering it on top of other groups. You got to be a little careful about that, but we are doing that. So this year we are in a really, really good position inside that we've never seen before, especially with the $2 million that's guaranteed on the books prior to the beginning of the year. Because traditionally, we see anywhere from 60 to 70% of our revenue inside the building in the year for the year. That's a normal standard in our industry. So really to see us flip that upside down is an omen to what it is a testament to what we've been able to do in terms of provide the guest service, but also in the marketing aspect of it to get these new groups in our building in the limited availability that we have. So we are, in very good shape for this year within the building.
I think we funded a meeting prior to this, an evaluation of the space.
Room optimization study,
Yeah,
right?
that's the word.
Yeah, and we're that's okay. Same thing.
What do we know about that so far, or?
Well, we're still in the process.
Okay.
So we finished the initial study,
Yeah,
which they proposed looking at 3 different options of redesign of the interior space. A lot of the meeting room or the breakout meeting rooms, because we have total 17 or 11?
17 or 18.
And so I'm glad that came through. I don't know where, but 17 rooms that are many of them are underutilized and too small for groups. And so they're looking at the main purpose was to look at those 17 rooms, how those could be redesigned maybe into just 2 or 3 of them, which would better help in our group capacity and group offerings. Also, the space that is used as storage outside of the event center right now that is vacant is used as storage that has historical photographs along the front, along Old Fall Street, that space. And also looking at the event center, how that could be air-walled and turned into 3 separate spaces at times to provide us even 3 more additional breakouts where they may not need all 32,000 square foot of that space. So that is done, and we have that study. Now we have to look at what would that cost be. They didn't provide that, we knew that, but now we have to look at that cost and looking at 3 different options. Maybe we only do the event center and the space outside there with the storage, or maybe we don't do that, we do the breakout rooms, or do we do it all in its entirety? So we're at that stage now. We just got a cost estimate on that of $18,000, and so we have to look at how do we proceed from here and go forward. And I think we're at a point, never have we been here, where if we have 70-some groups that are repeat, can we maximize the amount of revenue that we're getting from these groups? If not, we may have to start saying no to some of these repeat groups because they're not maximizing our revenue. We can find a new group that would maximize without making people mad or turning away and hurting relationships. It's a a fine line and a game that we have to play. But I've never seen this building ever be in better use and more use than ever before. I think we were always afraid of summer business, that the hotels would not play with us, and it was just a blockade on all of us, and that went away. Everyone's playing well, and that's why you're seeing more days that are lit in June, July, and August than ever before. Meeting planners are willing to look and pay for that rate if they want to be here at the hotels. And so it's been a very symbiotic and positive relationship across the board over the summer. And also in many times of the year. I mean, it's fantastic to see us have a problem where we don't have enough space for everyone. And it's a great spot to be in. And I think the campaigns you see before you, I could not be more pleased, because I think I just came from a small little convention in New York City, a conference for meeting planners, NYS, New York State Society of Association Executives. And the response that we're getting, oh, I didn't think of Niagara Falls as a viable meetings destination. So we really have changed through this campaign and us having this relationship, that whole perception of Niagara Falls being just a leisure destination, that it is a viable meetings destination. One, they love our hotels, the accessibility, the walkability, the affordability, and be able on their breaks to walk right into the state park. So it's it's a win-win. And let me tell you, other destinations across the state are having difficulty. Buffalo and Rochester and Syracuse, and we're capitalizing on that and doing very well with it. Could not be, no offense to our partners across the state, but
We have something.
we have something here and very positive. And we couldn't thank you as this body for the relationship that we have. I can't believe how fast it's gone. It's gone very fast. When I think back, it was 21, and here we are in 25, almost 4 years. Really 4 years next January 1. But it has been a positive and very productive and fruitful relationship, not only for this body and us, but also for the community. More importantly, when you see those economic numbers of $20-some million, I mean, it's huge. And we're finally putting that number together. We have a calculator that we use that is provided by a third party, Destinations International. That's an event impact calculator, that it's not us putting together the estimated economic impact. It is done by a third-party credible source, and those numbers are solid for this community. I think even are very conservative, to be perfectly honest. And so and when we see our numbers over $3 million in revenue for this size building and continue to rise, that's our goal. Our goal is to cut costs without hurting our reputation, looking at our food costs, but also looking at what we're charging for food and beverages too, and how we can, and Jason's done a great job along with Andrea and the team, looking at how we can raise those costs without hurting, again, relationships or pushing us into a more competitive spirit with Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and so on, even Pittsburgh and other locations. So it's a win-win.
Did the room optimization include anything related to technology in the spaces?
Not yet. That would
Yeah.
come, that would, the technology component would come once we start talking about specifics of what we can and cannot do. However, having said that, in terms of technology, one of the biggest upgrades we just did in the building was roughly a $400,000 project with a building control system, modernizing all of our HVAC system, because what we originally had was original to the building. And just to piggyback off one thing that John was saying, so when we talk about the study, the room optimization study, our sweet spot when it comes to conferences, and conferences is, at the end of the day, your biggest economic impact beyond our four walls is conventions. Our sweet spot is between 300 to 400, 500, right? We know we can do that. But when you get to the larger groups, what we found, and we have shared that historical data with not only USA Niagara, but also the consultant on the job, they're looking specifically for a certain set of room sizes, right? So when John says, there are rooms in our building this big, the problem is what are you going to do with that, right? So we're really looking at the need of 4 large conference rooms within our building. That will get us easily to be able to go out and solicit and finalize the RFP processes for the larger conventions that we know that we could handle, but we can't get there under the current structure. We've been very creative in some of our room sets and splitting rooms in the event center and flipping them in a matter of hours. But that's only going to get you so far.
When you say 400 or 500 for your bread and butter, what's the large meeting?
Well, for this destination would be 800 to 1200,
Yeah.
700 probably, maybe 800 optimally. You get above 1,000, then it's very difficult.
Exactly. Tomorrow we have a teacher recruitment day. We've always had that event. We are maxing our capacity out in the event center, how we could handle them. Now, having said that, we still get creative with the client. We're able to get creative with them because of our relationship we have with them, right? And that speaks to the volumes of the 72 repeat groups. We have the reputation in this community to execute any type of event, small or large. But really what we want to do is be able to get those larger conventions that really have that economic impact that we all desire for.
Is the market bouncing back, is it trending towards, smaller, or are the big conventions still a thing?
They are, but we bounce back quicker than ever because we're a third tier market, right? A lot of my colleagues, I'm on conference calls with a group that I'm a part of. A lot of the larger first and second tiers, they didn't bounce back quick enough because it's a first tier. You're dealing with large groups, conferences of 5,000, 10,000. Where we're a third tier, smaller conventions, we bounce back quicker than ever. And our numbers will dictate that. So being a third tier market in terms of what we faced post-COVID actually was a positive, not a hindrance to some of the larger markets.
Honestly, I think this is one of the better partnerships we've ever entered into.
Well, even to John's earlier point,
I think it's made a huge difference.
Destination Niagara would send a salesperson to convention and they'd be at the same conference. So now you streamline it and it's been a great relationship.
I know, but we haven't heard positive revenue in a long time.
Yeah.
So,
Well, they went the first year, we were in the black last year.
As someone who worked,
I want to get back
Before
to
COVID.
as someone who worked with the private sector and worked with Destination Niagara, and I'm not saying this because my bosses are next to me, I wouldn't say it at all. Trust me. The value you get for what is being given to them versus the value that is 2 to 3 times that you would give the private company, and that's what private companies do. They're for profit. There's nothing wrong with that. I could tell you firsthand, the value is so much greater from Destination Niagara standpoint versus a private company, especially in a third tier. I could tell you these campaigns, the marketing, the website, the social media, you would be paying for that extra. So
I'm getting calls from our colleagues around the country. I mean, I'm going to have private firms knifing my tires, I think, because this is starting to get cold, that they see what we're saving, they hear about me at these national conferences, they hear how successful this has been. Many cities are looking at it. I know even Myrtle Beach gave me a call and said, how are you doing this? What are you doing? And how did you do this? And thank goodness for the relationship that we have with the state, here.
Yeah.
I said the state's been on our board, has had a permanent seat on our board. This organization, USA Niagara Development Corporation, and it's having that relationship, and it's solid, and so that does help a lot. It really does.
It's been one of the best things we've done.
When you have two, a building or, entity and an organization that are aligned in the same mission, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And we knew Upside was meetings, and I think, you know, we never had a chance to do it with the brands that we were lacking. You know, now that we have more brands in
That's
the
true, too.
market,
We didn't have-
that helped us sort of establish ourselves in a meetings industry, because before, we could not, when you have a Quality Inn and that kind of brand, nothing against those brands, but those are more leisure focused brands, not a convention and meetings brand. You know, when we had, now we have a DoubleTree and the Sheridan's upgrading and other things, we were able to play in this marketplace better. And that's why it's nice to do these campaigns, because it's really bringing us more to the forefront and a larger, we're attending shows we've never attended before.
Well, and I was gonna mention IMAX, which is the
Yeah.
largest national show for this meetings marketplace. And this destination had never gone there before. And Rihanna, our Director of Convention Sales, from our office, a lot of the meeting planners were asking, how come you're not there? Why don't you attend? We've been looking for you, because now, you know, people are seeing and thinking about us a little bit more. I do want to show this just because this gives you scale to what you're seeing there. This was that was at IMAX. Just for scale, that thing was huge.
We get a
And
sponsorship, our booth had this in.
It's been such a popular campaign because it stands out more, it's bright, it's fun, it's different. But just to give you an idea of how big that thing was, that was at the entrance of the trade show floor in Las Vegas.
Oh,
Now we're
nice.
taking
Really?
more space.
Oh, nice.
So we've really taken this campaign probably as far as we can take it.
But I think it has longevity for at least
Yeah.
another year. Rand and I were talking about, like in our booth, this is on an entrance, as Andrea alluded to, but in our booth, we have the cutouts where you can come up and take your picture, that you are that bucket list hero, you know, with your picture behind one of the cutouts of the superheroes. So it's been fun. And Andrea, a lot of destinations do city pictures. Every day, if you open up a meetings publication, it's a picture of the Buffalo waterfront, or, you know, Cleveland's waterfront and other destinations. And this really stands out as that cartoon, bright, very nostalgic looking. It really ties in with Niagara Falls very well, and is very successful.
Great. Well, thank you all for that
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you.
I don't know if anybody else has any questions, but if there is no other further business, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
And I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. We're adjourning.
Motion carries.
Motion carried.
Thanks, New York.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your participating.
Oh, that page there, 7.